Excuse me, let's do our invocation first, then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Just a second. We'll have our invocation first. Please bow your heads. Lord, we thank you for this day, this opportunity to come together. We thank you for the many blessings that we all enjoy, particularly the liberty that we all enjoy, particularly this week that we're aware of. Be with us tonight. Grant us wisdom in all decisions that we make. Here, once again, we thank you for the many blessings that we enjoy. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may have a seat, and at this time, where's our microphone? Because we want to thank the, Mr. Billsy, will you please come up and let everyone know where these young men are from, what troop, and we certainly appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for having us, Chairman Hayes. Thank you for having us, Chairman Hayes. It's an honor, and members of the board and staff and all the visitors, all our audience. We're from Troop 239 from Myrtle Grove Evangelical Presbyterian Church, and these fellows are from about 6 months old in scouting to almost having their Eagle badge, depending on who they are. On the left, we have second-class scout Daryl Jantz. We have second-class scout Callahan Stack. We have scouter. You're a scouter, right, Mike? Michael Hyatt. And we have Clay Thompson, and you're a scouter as well. And Alec Billsy is a life scout. And do you want to tell them what schools you go to? Myrtle Grove, CFCI, Roland Grice, homeschooled, and Hoggard. Thank you, folks.
We certainly appreciate, Mr. Billsy, your filling in tonight. Those in the audience, we normally have one of our color guard units from our high schools present the colors, and then one of our schools perform the national anthem. I thought that Mrs. Dale Pelsey-Beckton was going to sing tonight. At least I was led to believe that, but evidently I was misinformed. I was really looking forward to that, Dale. So
well, we could still encourage that.
Well, yeah, we can still encourage that. But we appreciate them coming tonight to post the colors for us. Also, at this time, I would like to thank Mrs. Holliday. I see you back there, principal of Holly Tree. We appreciate you allowing us to use your facility tonight, and it's very good to be here. It's been a while since I've been here, so I got turned around. But we do appreciate the hospitality and so forth that, and Ms. Adams, the work that went into. But we will return, I think, next month at our board meeting room, I believe, that will take place. If not, we'll just visit another school. But we do appreciate being here tonight. Ms. Adams, at this time, if you'd call the roll, please.
Donald S. Hayes.
Here.
Jeanette S. Nichols.
Here.
Janice A. Kavanaugh.
Here.
Tammy J. Koval.
Here.
Lisa Easted.
Here.
Derek G. Hickey.
Here.
Edward B. Higgins.
Here.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 3, approval of the minutes. This will be from our June 4th meeting, 2013.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the minutes, but with my vote on the AIG plan as a no.
Okay. That motion, is there,
A second.
okay, so,
Is there not a process, Mr. Hayes, that we need to vote that she can change that information in the minutes?
I think the process is, and Mr. Bullard, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the process is that a member, before the minutes are approved, can make the request that Mrs. Koval made, and as long as it passes unanimously by the board, that is the procedure. And if it's not unanimous, then I think a motion would be in order, would it not, Mr. Bullard, to?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, so we don't have to make a motion for
No, only if a board member
Objects.
objected,
Okay.
then it could go into the form of a motion, and we could approve it that way. But if there is no objection, then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, they are approved. Item 4, recognition of achievement. Ms. Quattlebaum.
You skipped approval of the agenda.
Before we do that, I did skip the approval of the agenda. I guess that's what I was thinking when I was thinking about the minutes. Any additions or?
Under number 6, item A, there are no new administrative recommendations this evening. So that will be
Items,
item A, appendix A,
Okay. That, omit that?
please.
Any other changes? Motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It's approved. Now, Ms. Quattlebaum, recognition of achievement.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Good evening, board members, and good evening, everyone. Our first recognition is from the Board of Education. Our board has awarded 2 scholarships to New Hanover County Schools students, which provide incentive, recognition, and financial assistance to those wishing to enroll in an accredited North Carolina college teaching program. And these scholarships will total $4,000 each over a 4-year period. And so now we would like to recognize our scholarship recipients. If they would come forward when I call your name, please. They are Miss Lauren Daniel, a recent graduate of Laney High School. Miss Daniel, and her family. If Lauren's family is here, we'd like you to stand. We'd like to recognize you as well. And the second recipient of the board scholarship is Miss Trinity White, who is a recent graduate of Isaac Bear Early College High School. Miss White. And if Miss White's family would stand, congratulations. Congratulations to both of these outstanding young ladies.
And we have the principals from both their schools here as well. Mr. O'Brien and Mr. Sutton is in the back of the room as well.
Thank you. Our next award is the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. It has been awarded to New Hanover County Schools by the Government Finance Officers Association. And this award is for our finance department's comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ending 2012. I believe we've received this several times, so at this time we would like to ask our Chief Financial Officer, Mrs. Mary Hazel Small, to come forward. Please join me in a round of applause for our finance department. Congratulations. And finally, it's my pleasure to recognize some of our excellent principals, Mr. Hayes. Recently, 133 principals completed the Distinguished Leadership Program. And that program is a year-long leadership development program for practicing school principals, designed and provided by the North Carolina Principal and Assistant Principals Association. And this program is in partnership with North Carolina DPI and the University of North Carolina. As I call your name, I ask our outstanding principals who participated in this program if they would please come forward, and they are Mrs. Tim Dominowski. Right, we'll take a group photo. Mrs. Kristen Jackson. Mr. Patrick McCarty. Mrs. Carol Piner. And Mrs. Barbara Stock. We congratulate these outstanding principals for going above and beyond in their professional development. Congratulations to you all. Thank you, and that concludes our recognition ceremony.
Here's the resolution.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah, okay. My bad.
It's close.
Pardon?
It's a close call.
Right. Next item on the agenda is our call, Roman numeral 5, call to the audience. We've had one individual sign up, Steve Nix.
Actually, I'm going to be speaking for my husband, Christy Nix. Members of the board, Dr. Markley, my name is Christy Nix. I am speaking on behalf of 6 families who are moving to Anchors Bend neighborhood. Included within those families are 8 elementary children. 4 are currently enrolled in Ogden Elementary. 3 of those 4 have spent their entire elementary lives at Ogden. When we purchased the lots in Anchors Bend, we knew that the school assignment was Castle Hayne. Our anxieties came when we realized how long the bus ride was going to be. We hoped that the board would hear our concerns and allow these 8 children from Anchors Bend to attend Ogden, especially since we are referring to the youngest children. We understand that all of you are sensitive to the burden bus transportation has on every child in our county. Our suspicions about this lengthy bus route are accurate. The actual bus route was driven this morning by the Northern Bus Coordinator of the county, and the stated pickup time of Anchors Bend will be 6:30. Castle Hayne Elementary starts at 8 o'clock. The children are required to be at the bus stop 10 minutes prior. That's 6:20. This is an hour and 40 minutes that these kids, the youngest kids, will be waiting for school to start. And then you've got another, at least an hour on the way home. I ask every board member to reflect once more on what it means for a 5, 7, or 9-year-old to ride a school bus for up to 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. How is this going to affect their ability to perform at school? 8 children spread over 6 grades will not have a large impact on the overcrowding at Ogden. 4 of these children are already enrolled. The net impact is only 4 additional children. Please remember, we are talking about the youngest of students. You would have these 8 children pass by a school that is 2 miles away, have them struggle with longer days, and be excluded from being included in the neighborhood school environment that builds a strong community. It's not about the parents or me. It's not about the teachers or the bus drivers or the board or the administration. It's about these children, these babies, the youngest of our community. Your vote tonight is very important for these children and will be day in and day out from this day forward. With that in mind, please allow these 8 children to attend Ogden Elementary. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Next item, Roman numeral 6, administrative personnel. Item B, administrative contract renewals, Appendix B. Dr. Markley.
All right, I will review these by category, and I'll ask for a motion on the group category. First group is principal recommended for employment for school years 2013 to 2017. Benny Bryant, Heather Byers, Rebecca Opgran, Krista Holland, Patrick McCarty, Carol Piner, Sherry Pinto, Barbara Stock, Patricia Waddell. I'd ask for a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions?
Perfect. I'll disagree with that. I have just two comments, and I support this. One of the principals, Ms. Byers, is the elementary school principal my children have, and so I can attest to the good job she is doing. And then it's interesting being a board member. A couple of weeks ago, my little boy had a tennis match, and he was participating, and there was a lady who was really nurturing and kind officiating the match, so much so that I felt compelled to introduce myself afterwards, at which point I felt really stupid because it was Sherry Pinto and I didn't recognize her. She said, Dr. Hickey, I know you. I'm the principal up at Castle Hank. And so it actually warmed my heart, though, to know that we have administrators who are warm and nurturing to children, because knowing nothing about her, I know she's doing a great job, because as a parent, what you know is that good teachers and good principals love students. And so, there we go. It was just, as I flipped through the recommendations for contracts and I saw her name there, I thought, I should just mention this interaction I had with her completely outside the school system. And based on this, seeing how she acts just in public when she has nothing to do with the school, I know she's doing a great job. And so a little bit unrelated, but I just wanted to relate that.
So we had a motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They're approved.
Second group, assistant principals recommended for employment for school years 2013 to 2017. Rachel Alessandro, again, we'll do these as a group. Colette Anderson, John Branson, Sarah Buchanan, Jennifer Carey, Jordan Davis, Laura Jennings, Lauren Kaplanaitis, Glenn Locklear, Karen McCarty, Deborah Reed, Wanda Seed, Amatullah Steinbeck, Chris Vaughn.
Move for approval.
Second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They're approved.
Assistant principals recommended for employment for school year 2013, 2014, Jill Robertson.
Move for approval.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved.
Central Office Administrators recommend for employment for school years 2013 to 2015, Sarah Gubitz, Laverne Pickett.
Move for approval.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved.
Program coordinators for school years 2013 to 2014, Keisha Bennett Smith, Isaac Bear Early College, Regina Wooten, Wilmington Early College.
Move for approval.
Second.
Comments, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved.
That completes the administrative contract renewals.
Thank you, Dr. Markley. Item Roman numeral 7, under information, item A, attestation of school improvement team meetings, Appendix C. Dale Pelsey-Becton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The information on the attestation of school improvement team composition and the attestation of required school improvement team meetings for the 2012-2013 are provided for the board's review.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any comments, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Item 8, Superintendent's Report. Item A, New Hanover County Health Department, School-Based Mental Health Services, Appendix D. Dr. Holliday.
As he's coming forward, just note these three items were information items that were requested for additional information tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Members of the board, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you for just a moment tonight. regarding our partnership with the New Hanover County Health Department school-based mental health services program that we have in several of our schools. There are several folks from the Health Department here tonight, Mr. Chair, that I'd like to introduce before I introduce the individual that will be making the presentation. Joshua Swift is here as the Public Information Officer for the Health Department, and our two school nurse supervisors, Diane Kirby and Maria Turnley, are also here tonight. We're happy to have them here. I'm especially happy to have Carla Turner. Carla Turner heads up this program. Carla was probably one of the smartest kids to ever graduate from Laney High School. And anytime I get the opportunity to say something nice about a Laney High grad, I want to say that.
You better take advantage of those opportunities, Dr. Holloway.
And she married a real nice boy. I'm not going to tell you he was the smartest kid ever went to Laney High School, but he's a real nice boy. So both of them Laney graduates. So happy to have them. Just so you have a little background before the presenter comes up. One of the things that we're trying to do, and that you all have been the leaders in for so long, is taking a look at the whole child and what is required to develop the whole child. And we understand our primary focus is teaching and learning. We also understand, if you think back to your undergraduate days or maybe even your high school days, where you learned about Maslow's needs and the hierarchy of needs, and that pyramid. You can see it in your head. You probably can't remember all the levels of needs if you're like me, but you can see it in your head. And you see that the lower level needs are at the bottom. Safety, security, food, shelter, those kinds of things. And then you get to the top of the pyramid, and that's self-actualization. Y'all remember that. And self-actualization is where the higher order thinking and the problem-solving skills and all the things that allow higher level learning to take place. We also know from the study of that if those other things aren't taken care of, we're never going to get to self-actualization. And for many of our children, that's what occurs. So we've begun to build in a system of what I would call developmental assets that children must have in order to get to self-actualization. And what you've allowed us to do as a school system is to build in those developmental assets that children have to have in order to meet those needs that they need before they can get to that higher order level of thinking. And we've seen results, and we appreciate the support and the partnership that the board has provided during this time. And I'm going to shut up. I tell you, most of y'all know that my granddaddy was a Pentecostal holiness preacher. And so the genetics comes to me a little bit at inopportune times, so I'll stop. I want to introduce Donna Lynn Pleasance from the Health Department, who's going to present a brief presentation about this program. And then if you have any questions after that, we're certainly ready to entertain them. But Donna?
And while they're coming forward, let me tell you, mental health is an area of concern in our schools that continues to grow year to year. The state has cut funding, changed services, and these are kids who struggle the most in their schools. And Kristen back there can tell you about what some of these kids go through in their schools. And while if you ask me where I want to spend dollars, mental health may not be the first place to spend them, but I think in terms of what they do for the other kids in the school and allowing education to continue, they're dollars that are critical to our schools succeeding.
Thank you. Good evening. I guess it's evening now. Thank you for letting me present my PowerPoint slideshow to you. I worked really hard on it when I first did it, not knowing how to do PowerPoint, so, and I'm not in control, so I'm not sure how that's going to work. Our school mental health program was first implemented actually in 2001 as a collaboration between New Hanover County Schools and Southeastern Mental Health Center, back in the day when there was community mental health. In an effort to alleviate certain barriers to mental health services, the school mental health partners embarked on a long-range plan to locate one full-time mental health therapist in each school. That was the plan in 2001. Unfortunately, state mental health reform came, and community mental health left. and mental health was privatized. So we were not able to complete that goal that we had. We started with 2 elementary schools in 2001, and we have expanded to we'll have 16 elementary and middle schools starting the new school year. We were able to go back into Virgo, which was one of our schools earlier during the Safe School Healthy Students grant. And as I said, through a state mental health reform divestiture, we were very lucky that the health department was willing to take our program over because they saw the importance of the continuum of health and mental health, that you have to have one to have the other. Some of the services that we provide, we have licensed clinical therapists. Everybody has to be licensed in their field. So we provide individual, family, and group psychotherapy to clients and their families. Now, these services are given to the clients, to the students in the school during school hours and after school hours, including summer vacation. Just because the kids leave the school doesn't mean that they can't receive the treatment anymore. Services are also available to all students of the assigned school. And this is very important for us. This is what we wanted. No student is turned away because they don't have the ability to pay. We have a lot of students who are uninsured or underinsured, meaning that their insurance companies have high deductibles, or they may have health insurance, but it doesn't have a mental health component to it. The licensed clinical therapists also provide consultation and collaboration with school staff and community agencies. And also, that's not on my slide that I probably should have updated, we also give a lot of other services that used to be called case management. And when community mental health went away, case management went away as well. But we couldn't stop doing those services. Those are like meetings that involve the client, classroom observations, consultations with their physician or psychiatrist regarding medication issues, progress reviews with the parents and the teachers. In the past, in the good old days, we were able to bill for those services as case management. We cannot do that now. The only thing we can bill for is therapy sessions. Okay, the positive benefits of having, of having the services in the school where the students are is that the students are more accessible. There are fewer transportation issues for the parents. They don't have to get off work, find transportation, go to the school, pick up the kid, bring them to the mental health center, and then get them back there in time, which a lot of times we found they didn't. The kid was just out of school for the rest of the day. We have lower no-show rates. The kids are right there. We're able to provide intervention strategies directly to the teachers in that moment. It's not a week later when you can get up with the teacher by a phone call. They're right there in the school. They can walk to their classroom. The school staff have better access to needed mental health information. We do a lot of consultations with the teachers and the administration. There's less stigma than going to a mental health center, because if you go to a mental health center or a private therapist, you're crazy. Clients with no insurance or high deductibles are also able to access services. These are just some of our most common diagnoses. I know everybody's heard about ADHD, and yes, that's out there, but what we've seen more and more lately is mood disorders, a lot of depression and anxiety with our school kids, even our youngest school kids, kindergarten and first graders. We have a lot of school refusal too. You can go. This is just some more selective mutism. Very odd. It's very rare, yet we probably have maybe 10 cases right now of kids who just refuse to talk. We do outcome measures, and I did send the latest one through the email. I don't know if you guys got a copy, but if you don't have a copy and would like one, I'd be more than happy to give it to you. We measure how the student is doing. They get a pretest when during the admission assessment, which we have with the parent and the student, and we also give one to the teacher because the teacher is very important. About 4 to 5 months later, we give a review test just to kind of gauge to see how they're doing, how the therapy is working. So clients participated in outcome measures which assessed for an increase in social skills, such as coping techniques, self-control, responsibility, and empathy, and assessed for a decrease in problem behaviors such as conduct, emotional regulation, especially for our middle schoolers, and hyperactivity. Clients received a combination of individual and family therapy. Frequency was dictated by the acuity and the involvement of the parents or guardian. So some kids could be seen twice a week if that was the need. Some kids were seen every other week, just depending on the need. I talked about our Pretest Post-Test. They're on a Likert scale, and I know that's psychological gobbledygook, but basically it's a scale that from 0 is 0, 1, and 2. 0 is being that behavior was rarely seen, 1 being seen sometimes, and 2 being seen very often. A measurement greater or equal to 0.05, because remember, we only have a 3-point scale, was significant. You can go ahead. Oh, that's okay. Okay, so this was the elementary schools. This was the social skills, and this was the overall for all the students that was part of that outcome measure for that year. Social skills that we saw, the subcategories are empathy, for elementary, are empathy, responsibility, and self-control. So if we were able to improve those things in those students, they did better. As you can see, there is some improvement. Both the student thought so, which was very interesting, but the parent and the teacher also felt that there was some improvement. The problem behaviors, of course, we didn't give it to the kids because they're not going to fess up to any problem behaviors, but to the parent and to the teacher. The problem behaviors that we looked at for the elementary school was conduct, self-control, and hyperactivity. And again, a decrease in the scores actually show that they're having less problems in the school and at home. And then middle schools, again, looking at the social skills, same thing, empathy, responsibility, and self-control, because we need all those things to be able to cope with the day-to-day issues of our lives. Also, we saw an increase in those skills. And then the problem behaviors in the middle school, we saw were conduct, that emotional regulation, because again, they are middle schoolers and they have a hard time with that, and self-control. And again, a decrease in those show that there has been improvement in those problems. Okay, the last numbers that I have, I don't have the full numbers for this past school year. This was the full numbers that we have because we just finished June 30th. But for fiscal year 11-12, we saw 549 different clients. We did over 10,000 therapy sessions. You can see the consultations with the school personnel and the community agency collaborations. The consultation with the school personnel is very, very important for us, which is why we like being in the school, because they're right there and we can grab them at any moment and say, this is what's happening, what's the best plan for this child for right now. Okay. And these are our schools for this coming up school year. Again, very happy to have Virgo back into the fold. We did not really like having to leave, of course we had to, but we were lucky that we were able to get back in there as well. I think that's the end. Yeah. Okay. Any questions?
I have a question. I mean, seeing the number of therapy encounters and consultation with school personnel and community agents collaboration, this question may seem misguided because I don't know exactly when you would find time to do anything else, but...
Okay, we do have 12 therapists.
Well, I know that, but
okay.
If you divide 12 into, I add that up to be about 15,000 encounters of one shape, form, or fashion, which 12 therapists works out to about, what, 1,200 apiece during a year. But my question is this. You're currently at 16 elementary and middle schools.
That's projected, that's for this coming year.
Okay,
we were just
projected.
15.
But here's my question.
Okay.
We often have situations where programs are cited at a school but are shared with another school. So my question is, while you're cited at, hope to be cited at 16 schools for the coming year, how do you reach out to the other schools that are not on this list to provide these kinds of services for those students at those other schools?
We actually have 4 therapists that split 2 schools.
Okay.
So 4 therapists have 2 different schools. My understanding is that the What Clinic is in the high schools, so we never got to that point. When we first started out, our thought was we were going to get all the elementary schools covered, then we were going to go to the middle schools and get all them covered, and then we were going to go to the high schools. Well, our elementary school kids were graduating into middle school, so we thought, well, wait a minute, that's not a good plan. So let's do some elementary schools and then some middle schools that were feeding from the elementary schools. Then mental health reform came, and we couldn't do anything else. So my understanding is that What Clinic is in the high schools, and there are, I guess, other schools try to get private therapists to come in and do things. But with them, they come in, they see that one client, and they leave. We're there the whole day that the kids are there. And that's how we are able to do, when I say encounters, okay, encounters are therapy sessions. Collaborations could be a 15-minute talk with the principal or teacher or something like that. And we're there until 5.
But to get back to my question, I mean, I noticed, for example, on your list of schools that you had up there, you've got Blair and you've got Noble, 2 schools sitting right side by side with each other. Does that indicate that you have a counselor in Blair and another counselor in Noble? And that's where I'm asking, couldn't you expand the coverage across the county by having somebody who maybe shared at Blair and Noble, and one individual who worked both of those schools, you know, Trask and Laney, Murray and Anderson.
Gregory and Williston.
Yeah, Gregory and Williston.
Williston could use 2 therapists. In fact, we were asked last year if we could put another therapist in there because the therapist that was there was just so busy. Same thing with Noble and Blair. They are busy enough that we really can't split them. We've split the schools that we could.
Which ones are those?
Alderman and College Park are split. Bradley Creek and Sunset Park are split. Virgo and Gregory are split, and Wrightsboro and Murrayville.
That's based on caseload.
That's based on caseload.
What was the last one you said?
Murrayville and Wrightsboro Elementary.
So that's where one person's serving both of those.
Correct.
So there's a need at Castle Hayne and Holly Shelter to have 2 separate?
Yes.
I guess the question I have is, I don't think anyone in this room would deny the importance of mental health and for mental health services for those people, students, adults who need mental health services. I guess my question has nothing to do with your presentation, but has to do with the contract that we're being asked later in this evening to approve. So, you know, you can stop me if I'm sort of going off on a tangent, but you see patients, and many of these patients have insurance. And those patients who have insurance, you bill their insurance companies.
Yes.
Yes. And so based on these collections, you are able to pay the 53% of the salaries for the therapist and the supervisor. And so you're asking the school system to pick up the rest, 47%, which comes out to approximately $433,000. So to, you know, again, what I don't really understand, and I understand Dr. Holliday's point of developmental assets, and I do appreciate the importance of developmental assets, I also appreciate the efficient use of school funds. Okay, because $433,000 to me is a considerable amount of money that we could hire 7 school teachers or redo computer labs. And so when you throw things out there saying that, well, certain schools we can split because of the lower caseload, I mean, the data that would be useful to me is how long is your average therapy encounter? So do you spend 30 minutes? Do you spend an hour? Does that correspond to an established patient level 4 visit, level 3
Okay,
visit?
can I stop you right now?
Sure.
This is not medical.
Okay.
Okay, it's not billed the same.
Okay.
So, and that may be where you're having a misconnect.
Yeah.
Medical and mental health are, even though there's supposed to be a Mental Health Parity Act, it's still disparity. It's still not treated like health, like health part. Like if I came to see you, you're a doctor, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if I came to see you for an initial evaluation, and you build my insurance, and I get the little EOB, and there's like, I don't know, 4, 5, 10 different things you bill for.
Sure.
When I bill, or when my therapist bill, we could bill one thing, and one thing only. Therapy session, that's it.
But the
We
difference
can't
is
bill
that,
anything else.
difference is that I pay for me and my family, so I make a living, and I pay 4 staff members just for me.
Mhm.
I pay the mortgage on a building.
Mhm. But you can bill more, and so your
pay my
reimbursement is more.
malpractice, I support my family.
Mhm.
Whatever you're billing only supports 53% of your salaries.
Right, because we see kids who have no insurance.
Well, what percentage of the children you see?
I don't have that figure with me. It usually runs about 20%.
Okay, so
of our kids
80%
have
of people have insurance.
Okay.
So then how many?
20% have no insurance.
Yeah.
Okay. Not all 80% have insurance that has mental health benefits or has benefits that doesn't have, I don't know, catastrophic deductible, 10,000. Okay. The reason why the original thought many years ago was that that group of money was for those, to make sure those kids had the same access to mental health as the ones who had Medicaid or, good health insurance. So that's what the thinking was way back in the day.
Okay, well, how many therapy encounters do you have per day at each school?
It depends on what's happening at the school, which client needs to be seen, if there is an emergency. Again, you may have a nice laid out plan. I'm going to see, 8 kids today before they leave school, and then you have somebody that comes in that's suicidal. You have to deal with that kid. All the others have to wait. We get one billing for suicidal, and that comes out to be $93. We can spend 5 hours with them, making sure they have the right placement, going where they need to go. We still get $93. If we'd seen our 8 kids, we'd have got more than that.
You work for the Board of Health, essentially, the health department.
Health department.
Yes. Does the health department not have outpatient mental health services?
No. We were a Southeastern mental health program. We were a community mental health program. When the divestiture came, and we were the last ones that they divested in 2007, the health department said, sure, come on over, you can come over and be with us, because we understand the need for mental health in the schools. But yeah, it was originally mental health, this Southeastern mental health program.
Okay, but again, my concerns, again, if you don't have the data, you don't have the data. It just seems to me, and again, maybe it's the sort of medical paradigm that I come from, that a provider should be able to bill enough to provide for their own salaries. And
in an ideal world, sure,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Because people do provide outpatient mental health services, and these people run these things as a business, and they provide salaries for themselves.
And they are also probably doing community health as well, community mental health as well. The case support, community support. They're doing enhanced services, not just outpatient mental. We're just outpatient mental health. We're not enhanced services. Enhanced services, you can bill a lot more stuff. And that's not what we are. We are outpatient treatment.
Okay.
But where is the incentive? I echo Dr. Hickey's concerns in that we are being asked to cover a great deal of the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the incentive? Because what I was told is that not all therapists can even bill, so that a child may see a therapist that can't bill their insurance. Where's the incentive to try to save money or to cap the amount if you have a child? It doesn't seem to me that there's any incentive to look at, where can we save costs here? I'm going to do what and I'm not faulting the therapist, but is there any kind of limit of service? Is there any kind of limit of appointments, anything like that?
We have
That's
not
built
done
in.
that. I mean, our goal at the beginning was every child would have an opportunity to have the service. We have discussed this numerous times. Do we need to, limit it only to Medicaid clients? Do we need to? But Medicaid clients have services out there. It's, we have the kids who have the catastrophic insurance or the no insurance or the undocumented students who can't get insurance of any kind. So we have looked at that, and we're keep rejecting that because we want to make sure every child has the opportunity to have the service.
Any other comments, questions? This is just for information, correct?
Correct. Contracts later is for approval.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item B, North Carolina Division of Vocational Rehabilitation Services, Appendix E, Dr. Holliday.
I promise I'll have much less to say this time, but I will tell you that there's a Laney High School connection in this one, too. Scott Crouch, sitting right over there, is a VR counselor, and he was my VR counselor at Laney High School for several years, and we actually won an award. Went up to PTA building up there on Glenwood Avenue many years ago to receive an award. It was about Christmas time, and I was kind of worried about it because one of the most important things that was occurring today, we were playing Garner that night for the state semifinals of championship. Y'all remember that run back in 2001? That was a great run. Had to throw that in. But thank you last meeting for approving our VR contract for this coming year. And as you requested, we have asked our VR folks to come and make a presentation to you about vocational rehabilitation. Just as a little bit of history, this has been a partnership between the New Hanover County Schools and North Carolina Department of Vocational Rehabilitation for nearly half a century. We are required to provide some bridge services for our special needs children, and vocational rehabilitation assists in that. And without stealing their thunder, I'm going to ask Ms. Becky Sutcliffe to come up and make her presentation for Voc Rehab.
Good evening, Board, and thank you so much for inviting me to provide an overview of vocational rehab and independent living services. I'm going to add a little aside. I was the first designated rehabilitation counselor full-time at Laney High School, so I do have some roots within the school system beyond the services that we're providing through our transition services. As Dr. Holliday was saying, we do have a wonderful partnership and have had a wonderful partnership with New Hanover County Schools for over 40 years. And we do thank you all for approving the cooperative agreement and the budget for the upcoming school year. Basically, I think it's a lot of bang for the buck as far as what we contribute and what New Hanover County Schools is contributing. You'll see that you all are contributing 21.3% of the annual budget, and vocational rehab is supporting that with 78.7%. But beyond the budget that you all approved, there's so much more that is involved with transition services. And we do have case service dollars that come with our services, and we looked at last year's data for the school year, and it looks like a little over $500,000 was spent on our transition students transitioning from high school into the world of work, whatever that looks like for that individual student. I think it's important, too, that you all understand kind of our staffing pattern. We are so grateful for the relationship that we've had with Mr. Trant and the transition liaisons over the years. I will applaud New Hanover County Schools for being very hands-on with our service provision. That's somewhat unique to New Hanover County. We don't have quite that oversight in Pender County and Brunswick County, but we also appreciate the relationship we have in those schools. And with our staffing pattern, we have a counselor in charge who is Scott Crouch, and I felt it was important for Scott to come tonight so that y'all can put a name and a face with him, as well as 2 master's level rehab counselors. All of our counselors, to include in Scott, are master's level rehab counselors. We also have dedicated staff as casework technician, processing assistant, and beyond that, in doing the actual service provision, we have business relations representative dedicated to New Hanover County Schools. We have vocational evaluator. We also partner with North Carolina Assistive Technology. I also manage the independent living program, so some of our students that may have independent living needs to make a successful transition into the world of work can be served jointly, collaboratively between VR and independent living, or solely by independent living alone if we're not looking towards vocational services. We also have on staff a rehabilitation engineer, and in years past, we've partnered with New Hanover County Schools on the driver's ed program. Apparently there were some issues in trying to provide accommodations to students who were seeking their learner's permit and driver's education. So we've had some experience in y'all utilizing our rehab engineer to promote that service. And we also have a dedicated counselor that serves deaf and hard of hearing students. And that's her whole focus. We feel like that's a real specialized disabling condition that we want to make sure we have the appropriate expertise to serve that population. So basically the VR process, we have the referral to start, and that can come from anywhere. It can come from you all, it can come from school personnel, the community, our community partners, self-referrals. Sometimes they hear about Johnny getting a job or Johnny getting that $80 check every month to get his unpaid hours for his diploma, and they'll come to us seeking our services. So referral is what starts, and we take an application, and then we conduct what we call a preliminary assessment for eligibility. We are an eligibility program. We're not an entitlement program, meaning that that person, they can be served under an IEP within the school system, but they still may not be eligible for vocational rehabilitation's eligibility criteria. So just because that person has a disabling condition doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be eligible for our agency. Once eligibility is established, we really work closely, and I'm going to speak specific to transition, with the school personnel for existing information. Y'all know that schools have big old confidential files that we access, and we try to gather all the data relative to that student that will help us make an eligibility decision. There's nothing worse than putting a child through unnecessary testing, et cetera. So we use existing data. And then sometimes once we've established eligibility, we're still not really sure what types of services to provide for that student. So we may do what we call a comprehensive assessment. We have vocational evaluation that I talked about, doing career exploration. One of the things that Betsy Stanwood and I have talked about is sometimes the schools have gotten away from doing a lot of career inventories and vocational assessments. That's something that we can offer to, every transition student or any student in a high school can benefit from a vocational assessment. So we conduct whatever's necessary to try to help us develop an individualized plan for employment with that student, with the focus of employment being our total objective and purpose. And that gets quite challenging with young people, because how many of us knew what we wanted to do right coming out of high school? So that's kind of a fluid document. It changes. It amends often. Sometimes we may successfully close a student 1 year, and they come back to us and say, that's really not what I wanted to do, and I'm not getting enough hours, and I'd really like to do something more, and now I'm really ready to buckle down and go to school. So that is a fluid document, and certainly if we close the case 1 year doesn't mean we can't reopen it and serve that student again. We provide whatever services are necessary to achieve that employment outcome. And one of my other slides will kind of get into that. And then once the student or individual has worked gainfully for 90 days and it's felt by all parties, to include the individual, that they've reached their employment job choice, then we can successfully close that case. and offer them post-outcome services, meaning that, let's say they start struggling on the job and we need to pull in some on-the-job supports to salvage the job. We can always do that post-outcome. So that's kind of the process. Then as far as our partners, we couldn't do it without relationships. I can just attest to, if it hadn't been for Mr. Trant over the years and being so hands-on with my staff, with me as an individual and as an office, we couldn't be doing what we're doing successfully. And one of the things that Betsy and I are talking about right now is already proactively trying to do some things to prepare for the new school year. So relationships are really important. And we collaborate with all the different partners within schools. As far as referral sources, the counselors will reach out to nurses, guidance counselor in school, suspension teachers, coaches. There are a lot of students that may not even be identified within the school system that may need our support and have a disabling condition that just hadn't been identified. So those are some of the partnerships that we have. As far as transition services, we have a financial needs statement that we complete on every student and their family if they're requesting services or they're in need of services that are going to cost money. And it's really hard to kind of break it out because there's always exceptions, and I'm all about ruling in instead of ruling out. I tend to be very lenient with our financial statement because a lot of times it's maybe the kid that suffers as a result of us not trying to rule in. So some of the services that don't cost any money to a family that we can provide for free would be, or that we don't base on income, would be just assessments, vocational evaluation, driver's assessments, engineering assessments. We provide vocational counseling and guidance. I talked about the vocational evaluation as being a great tool to work with the student to try to do some career exploration and capturing their strengths and their weaknesses and abilities, etc. We also have an in-school work adjustment training program that many of our students who are trying to achieve the hours to graduate with their diploma and they need to get the paid and unpaid hours, we offer the student, for when they're working on their unpaid hours, an $80 stipend every month while they're in training. We do up to $80, and we kind of treat it like a job. If you're not doing a good job, you're probably not going to get the $80. We have a evaluation sheet that we use, and that's just an awesome opportunity for us to be in kind of a simulated work environment within the schools and also give these kids the incentive and the ethic to do hard work so that they will earn that training stipend. We have employment marketing skills training we're doing in all the schools with our business relations reps. We have job placement, job development that all of our staff, that is one of our key responsibilities is doing job development and placement. We offer benefits counseling for those folks that are concerned about how it's going to impact their Social Security checks. Job coaching, a lot of y'all hear about supported employment for our most significantly disabled consumers. We refer out. We do a lot of collaborating with mental health system, all kinds of medical services. And we also have, I don't know if y'all have heard about it, but it's used to be the Goldsboro facility. It's now called Worksource East in Goldsboro. And it's a wonderful training program where students, a lot of our transition kids will tour every year, and some will think they're going off to college when they go to Worksource East because there's a supervised living situation that they can kind of work on independent living skills and also attend training. And some of those training programs are in collaboration with Wayne Community College. And then also I was talking about North Carolina Assistive Technology being with us. We work real closely with them in evaluating kids for different technology that they might need to be successful in school or on the job. Some of the services that we do based on financial need would be college training, assistive technology, i.e. if somebody needed a specialized computer to attend post-secondary education, we would have to look at their financial status. Medical and psychological services, we do a lot of physical and mental restoration. We were talking about earlier about folks not having insurance because they don't have insurance and they still have the need for those services to be successful on the job. That's something that we can provide. Support services to go to work, support service to go to school. We try to make sure if a kid gets a job and they're needing work clothing to do that job, that we are a source for that. Home modifications, vehicle modifications, and different licensures. I put down 2 slides that are transition slides statewide. They're not specific to New Hanover County, but I thought it was kind of important to kind of see the range of disabilities that we're serving. And you can see cognitive, the learning disabilities, certainly the largest piece. And then, of course, psychosocial and emotional. And then as far as our expenditures statewide, that's the next slide. You'll see that training is a big bulk of that pie. And we're also doing quite a bit of restoration services. So that's just to kind of give you an idea on our expenditures. Some of the specific data for the school program this past school year, we successfully transitioned 71 students from school to the world of work, whatever that looks like. Everybody's individual. We served approximately 315 students through in establishing their eligibility and developing a plan of services for them. And like I said, about $500,000, a little bit more than $500,000 on case service dollars that are at no cost to the school system. Our focus is employment. It has to be competitive employment. We do not place individuals in sheltered employment. That just doesn't happen anymore. We are dependent on the same labor market that everybody else is. So if you're in an area where there's a good labor market, then good, we're lucky. But when you're in an area where it may not be so good, we have the same challenges. So it's constantly out there kind of marketing to the employers what we can do that maybe some other employment agency can't do. We do have a formal model of business relations. We consider that there are 2 customers. There's the employer and then there's the consumer, and in this case the student. And so we want to make sure that we're meeting the employer's needs so that we can do some good job matching, good screening to make sure that it's a good job match for our students. We use different incentives. We have the work opportunities tax credit where an employer can get a tax credit for hiring a person with a disability. One of the greatest things that I'm seeing come out of our internship program is that for high school students in their summer, going into their senior year and their senior year, we can offer paid internships to employers to give these kids an opportunity to have some real good work experience at no cost to the employer. And we also do on-the-job training, constantly out there trying to market, get that kid in the door and give that employer maybe the willingness to take on the time to train some of our kids. And that also allows us to be a little bit more creative in our approach to employment opportunities. Community-based assessment, we'll do informational interviewing, job shadowing. This past October, we partnered with SAMS, and they did literally for all of the transition kids, a kind of a mentoring day to kind of let them come into SAMS and job shadow different jobs. And then they ended up hosting a luncheon for those kids. So where do we want to go now that you all have been so gracious in approving the budget? There's always work in progress and need for improvement. I'm excited about Scott's leadership. I'm excited about Julie Askew coming on board. Bill's going to be hard to replace, but we have worked with Julie and Pender. And Betsy is just a wealth of information. And I want to continue them having a very intimate involvement with us in making sure we're meeting the needs of the students and the school system and school personnel. So constantly strengthening those relationships. Expanding our referral base. I think there's a lot of myths out there about vocational rehab maybe not being able to serve students that we should be serving. I think there are hidden disabilities out there. I think there are kids that are going unserved because they think that we only work with those really disabled kids, and there are kids out there that probably need our help. So we want to expand our referral base, and we just want to promote our visibility. That's one thing that I want to work real closely with Scott on. We need to be in the schools. The schools need to be feeling the value of our program, and that's going to foster the relationships to allow us to do a better job. So that is it in a nutshell. Any questions?
Any questions?
I have a question. I just want to understand, and I know VR does a great job. I had some dealings with them 40-some years ago. But my question is this. A student graduates from high school, would be described as an exceptional child, an EC child. I'm trying to understand what VR is capable of doing, and to what extent vocational rehabilitation can work with this child to help them become gainfully employed, if they are, if they help find them a job. Is that where VR says, okay, we've got your job and that's it, or does VR make itself available to these students who have graduated but who are working maybe menial jobs to help stay with them over an extended period of time to help them be able to improve their skills, to become fully functioning, or at least somewhat fully functioning individuals, and not just simply doing a 10 or 20-hour a week job?
Right. It all depends on the level of the disability. Assuming that what you're saying, we're dealing with somebody that may have a significant disability, and in our language it's most significant disability as well. Depending on what the service provision is that they're receiving, like sometimes if they're most significantly disabled, they're going to need a job coach to assist them on the job, to learn those hard and soft skills to do the job. And one of the requirements that that provider has with us is they have to provide long-term follow-up for the duration of that job beyond VR's involvement, at least 2 contacts per month. At any given time, and I'll be honest with you, we have transition students where we've had 4, 5, 6, 7, and I don't want to applaud myself about the number of cases, but you're dealing with a very young population that may, when they graduate, be thinking one thing, and then a year later they're thinking another thing, or things start fizzling on the job, and it's not conducive, it's not to their potential. So our objective is hopefully to eventually get to that person to their potential. With that said, we're dealing with the same job market that everybody else is, and everybody's out there trying to sell their people to employers. Back in the old days, employers used to be willing to do a little bit more job carving, is what I call it. You know, I'll let this person sit over in the restaurant and roll silverware because I can afford to do that. Now we have college kids doing that. So we don't have employers that may be as willing to do that. They can't afford to. But we don't give up, and we keep just plugging at it. And I've seen some wonderful opportunities. I'm really big about on-the-job training. I've seen us, especially in Pender County, get these mom-and-pop employers. You know, we come in and they teach a kid in a small mom-and-pop auto shop to do some oil changes. I've seen some really creative development, and we just need to keep working to do better.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Well, we certainly appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
At this time, before we go to item C, we're going to take a little 5-minute break. We've been asked to take a little 5-minute break, so we will adjourn for 5 minutes.